for the kids. For the kids in the church, we're going to be starting a new little thing for you in both services. If the children of the church fill out the notes that are in the bulletin and bring them up to me following the worship service, I have a little box up here with a little prize in it. And I know that there might be some kids here that might be a little bit younger than writing age, but I think that they can have some people that can probably help them. So if they fill it out and bring it on up, we're going to encourage the kids to take notes of the sermons, at least for a little while. So fill that out, come on up, right here's the box, it's all ready for you and everything else. Okay, anybody know what Friday was? Why does everybody laugh when you say that? What was Friday? People laugh. What was Friday?
The 14th.
The 14th. Everybody, they still don't want to say Valentine's Day. I was at Walmart on the 13th, and I got my wife a card, and I got my wife some flowers. Of course, she picked out the flowers herself, and she said, "Here, buy them." And so she got the ones. She said, "Might as well get the ones I want." So that's what she got. And but it was really fascinating watching the men on Thursday. Because, once again, men and women are different. We joke about that a lot, and like said in one of our small groups, not wrong, just different. But I was just watching the guys. You go over to the card section, there was like 5, 6, 7 guys to every one woman that was there. And the guys are just, picking off, and I didn't see any with smiles. Now the women had smiles on their faces. But the guys, and then they go get the flowers, and they'd be clutching the flowers like this as they're walking out of Walmart, and what we have to do, and I thought about that in relation to prayer and love. You're saying, what does this have to do with the sermon today? It really boils down to this: what Valentine's Day and other days such as this try to produce, or try to expound on, is the adoration that you should have for your spouse. I adore her. Hopefully she adores me. And what does adoration actually mean? Because we're in the middle of a series of sermons here in the church on prayer. And for the next 5 weeks, we're going to be looking at various types of prayer. We're going to be looking at prayer of adoration, attrition, thanksgiving, praise, petition. We're going to be looking at those types of prayers and what they mean. Because many times when we think of prayer, we think of the ever-famous, God help me, God do this for me, God give me $1 million, God I just went out and spent $1 on the lottery, may I win the $380-some million right now. Lord, let me win this. And we're always asking God for stuff. But can you imagine if you went to your spouse and all you did was ask? Polly, cook me dinner. Polly, clean my house up for me. Polly, make my bed. Polly, do this. Polly, do that. Polly, do this. And what do you think would happen to my relationship with Polly? First of all, I think she'd get pretty tired of me telling her what to do. But there's other types of communication you have with your spouse or other people other than just asking or demanding. Adoration, praise, honor, love, those types of communication is important with your spouse. She needs to know, and I'll come from a male standpoint, she needs to know that I adore her. He needs to know that you're her hero. And they need to know that, and sometimes even verbally. Now, guys, I know it's hard for us because we think differently. We were coming home from Toledo and the other day, and Polly was asking me about it. Why is it so hard for guys too? And I'm sitting there going, I don't know, this is so hard for me. Well, if you do this, then why? Because I'm thinking of other things, important things, like Harley. Only got 2 people over here thought it. But many times we think and act differently, but we all know that communication is more than just demanding and asking. And when we're talking about prayer, we're talking about many types of prayer. Now, I got a little video I want to show you. This was actually given to me by Mike Jerkowitz. It's a type of prayer. Some of you have seen it on YouTube or the internet, but I think it's very appropriate for what we're dealing with today. Now, like it or not, that was a prayer. And I think it's the prayer that we're all dealing with right now is, oh, come on. You know, we weren't supposed to have snow this morning, and guess what? Even though it's just a little dusty, guess what? We've got the snow. We weren't supposed to have snow all next week, but guess what? You say that we're now a possibility of it, and you just, oh, you know, Jesus, make it warm. That's actually a prayer. And it's actually a very innocent prayer, I think. Jesus says we're supposed to come to God as a child, and sometimes says that we need to be that way. Today I want to talk about prayers of adoration. How we adore God and what we do when we do adore God. Prayer of adoration is recognizing who God really is. There are times when we just need to recognize the bigness of our God. And when we finally can somewhat grasp it, we should be in awe of that. And the prayer of adoration is one that is recognizing how big God actually is. The Protestant church has really moved away from prayers of adoration. More of the liturgical churches, such maybe the Lutherans or the Episcopalian or even the Catholic Church, they make sure that they have prayers of adoration that are in their worship services. But what is actually prayer of adoration? It's recognizing how great God is. And I'm going to tell you, when we start thinking about how big God is, it is a very mind-boggling thing. Once again, Polly and I had a conversation going up to Toledo. And while we were going up there, we were talking about how big the universe is. When you consider the fact that there is 350 billion galaxies that we can see by the Hubble telescope, and we know that there are more galaxies than just that. We know that space is infinite, meaning there is no beginning, no end. Time is really non-existent because of the fact that it's always been here and always will be here. And it's just amazing when you start comprehending some of this stuff. Polly and I were asking each other the question, is there life on other planets? And I said, well, we do know there's life elsewhere. Look at the book of Revelation. You see there's different life than what we see actually here. Well, could there be an earth such as ours where Jesus had, when he left this earth, had to go to another earth that was doing exactly what we did and we rebelled? Could there be a planet out there that they never did rebel and Jesus never needed to come to there? Because they were in fellowship with God. It is a mind-boggling thing when you think of this. When you think of a star that 1 million of our suns can go inside of. And God created that. That it took 35 years for the Voyager probe to leave Earth and then go all the way past Pluto. And how at 44,000 miles an hour. And it's just amazing when you think how big this Earth and this universe actually is, and that God created that. It is an awe-inspiring thing. And we go to Him in adoration and praise. So prayer of adoration is recognizing who God really is. We say many times that He is God and I am not. And that is something we need to keep in mind, because that's the basis of the problem of humanity. Throughout history, man has continually said, I'm the God of my own life. Don't you dare tell me what to do. How dare you tell me what to do? Nobody likes to be told what to do. You go back to the Garden of Eden. Here you've had Adam and Eve. They were placed in the garden. They said they could have absolutely anything in the garden, all except for one tree that was in the middle of the garden. And what happens when you are told no? You say yes. And how dare you tell me no? And they went and they ate the fruit. They could have all the other fruits. But boy, they wanted that one. Because, why? Because the serpent said, he knows you will be like him. If I look at the sin of mankind, it all boils down to the fact that we want to be God. We even have religions that have been formed that say that you are the God of your own life. Or you're the God of your own life, and when you die, you'll even become God. Mormonism is a prime example of it. What's the basis of Mormonism? The sin that was in the garden. That you will become a God of your own planet. We have that strong desire to be God. And throughout history, we have humanity that has continually looked at this awe-inspiring God and said, I want to live life my way. And we have constantly, what do we constantly do? We have constantly said, God, I know you told us how to live, but we're going to live our way. So we start redefining things. We redefine Adam and Eve, the first husband and wife, the first family. Now, today, we don't even know what a family is. He says, and the two shall become one, a very beautiful thing, male and female coming together as one. And what do? Now we've totally perverted that as well. We've told our children that they have more authority than our fathers and mothers, and we've told humanity that you have more authority than even authorities that are above you. Constantly, God is saying, this is how you are to live your life, and we constantly say, no, I want to be the God of my own life. So what is God to do? This awe-inspiring adoration of God, what is He to do? He has a strong desire to have a relationship with you. In fact, if you look in the scriptures, in the Bible, in the book of Genesis, God was in the garden with Adam and Eve. He wants that relationship. He created humanity to be in that relationship with Him, but yet we are the ones that constantly say, God, nuts to you. I had a much stronger statement that I said in the jail ministry, but I'm not going to say today because it's not appropriate. But we've constantly said, God, get out of my life. I want to live my life my way. So what does God say? I mean, here we have this God that created all that there is, all that we know, that's much more powerful than us. It says, the Bible says He knows the very number of hairs on top of our head, who knew us before while we were being created in our mother's womb. And we constantly say, goodbye, God. And then, when our life falls apart, then we're saying, God, where are you? Why did you do this to me? So God says, I still want you to be in a relationship with me. You were made separate from the animal kingdom. There is something unique about you. You have this a spirit and a soul that's not in the animals that you have. And I want you to spend eternity with me. We are made eternal beings. But what does He do with people who constantly reject Him and rebel against Him? Do we allow Him? Does He allow us in His presence so that we continue to rebel against Him? You see, God created the heavens and the earth. But God also created heaven for us, but there is also a hell. It used to be in the 1950s and 60s, the evangelicals and the evangelists would stand up and talk a lot about hell. We don't talk much about hell much anymore, because it's not popular. Who wants to hear about people being tormented throughout eternity?